This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026, and I've got the lovely Emily Forlini here with me. Hi, Emily. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. I'm so glad to be back. I think I did this maybe a full year ago, so this is fun.
Yeah, it's about that. And, I wanted to have you on because you cover some topics that intersect with mine quite nicely. You know, you have this awesome thing about AI you cover. And for me, AI is very easy. I use it sometimes, but I'm just not sure. And then you probably follow a little bit more. So I figured we talk about that. But, also you cover car tech. And so I figured we talk a little bit about what's happening with, the trade stuff with Canada, because I think it's really interesting. And then, there's obviously some phone news and stuff. A lot of it is kind of more like, China related in the sense that these are Chinese manufacturers. But a lot of these phones will eventually make their way to the rest of the world, my audience being pretty international. So Let's dive in.
Let's do it. The meeting of the minds.
Yeah, this whole Canada thing. What's your take on that? Because I am actually very excited. I think this is the disruption we need.
It's huge. So, the news being that Canada's lowering tariffs to just 6%, the normal tariff rate. So that means that Chinese EVs can actually come into the Canadian market.
Correct.
They are capped, though. Isn't there like a maximum?
I think it's like something like 39,000 the first year, and then it goes up to 70 or something on a 3-year period.
Okay, thanks for that.
Something like that.
It's just interesting because if people in Europe or other regions don't know, in the US, we don't have any Chinese cars, like any brands, zero, because you basically cannot bring them in with the tariff rate is 100%. And so to us, we think we're great. We have Ford, we're living in the past. We don't even know how amazing these Chinese EVs are. Maybe people vacation to Europe and they get in one and they're like, what the heck is this? Yep. So Canada is actually going to get a taste of it. And I say a taste because of that cap. And I'm curious almost if it'll just have that influence where Canadians will see other technology out there, whereas in the US, we're just kind of in the dark and hoping we're still the best.
Yeah, there's a lot to add to that, I think, actually. So number one, we do get Chinese engineered EVs in the US because we get Polestar and Volvo, which are owned by Geely, which is a big Chinese car manufacturer of EVs. And they manufacture them in the US or in South Korea right now, or in Belgium for the Volvo EX30. Mm-hmm. So, but until the 100% tariff was imposed in the US, they were also manufactured in China. Other cars that are manufactured or were manufactured in China and came to the US before the tariffs hit, where the Buicks, a lot of the Buicks are, like even the gas ones, are made in China for General Motors, by General Motors, and were shipped in. Now, I think they might have gotten an exemption or something, because I do believe that that's still happening, because Buick needs to sell its normal gas and hybrid cars in the US, and they don't have a plan to manufacture them here. I could be wrong on that. But anyway,
it's more like the Chinese owned. It's, like Zeekr or these brands.
No, exactly. Neo,
yeah. All the new, this whole topic is so fascinating.
BYD, the Dolphin, right?
BYD, that's the one we should have said first. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when we say the tariffs, these are actually tariffs that Biden put in place and also have been there have been no Chinese branded cars forever. So this isn't a Trump thing, which I think is people now associate Trump with tariffs, but this one goes back way, way further.
Right. And also for our government in Canada, it goes back to Trudeau. So, again, before the big rift that's being created by Trump's tariffs, and this is on Trump, to be clear, what happened was the Canadian laws around automotive, or on a lot of things like electrical and everything, like permits and codes, all of that follows the US. It makes sense. We're trading partners. A lot of parts and things flow back and forth. Americans, in the same way as they built factories for manufacturing cars in Mexico, did it in Canada. They did it first in Canada. Ontario is a huge automotive industry, right? Through NAFTA initially, and now it got renamed something. But this is all real, right? That is why, when Biden said 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs, immediately the Canadians said 100% on Chinese EVs, right? Tariffs. But also, to be clear, there is one thing we need to discuss, and that's before this 100% tariff came to Canada, Tesla was bringing its Chinese manufactured cars to Canada. If you look on the used market here right now, I'm in Vancouver today, you can look at Model Ys that were manufactured in China, brought in before the tariffs. So my question is, and this is something we can explore, but it's amongst the many things I think we can explore here, is Tesla going to take this opportunity to try to flood the market and get that 39,000 number? I mean, their sales have dwindled significantly. Canadians are not very fond on Tesla anymore, in the same way as many Americans aren't, because of Elon, right? So I think that it remains to be seen, but I could see like some kind of move from, Tesla doing this to kind of, prevent the competition from coming in. At the same time, we have to make it very clear that these tariffs that are low now also have some restriction, not just in the number of cars, but the pricing of these cars. They can't exceed 35,000 Canadian dollars, which is, I'm sure some of them will, but I think they're aiming for that price point, which is about 25, 27K US. So we're looking at the same pricing as the current new Nissan Leaf. We're looking at the same pricing as the current Chevy Bolt, which just got renewed for another 18 months. And the news today said they're only going to do it for 18 months. It's ridiculous.
Can't believe that.
Oh my God. Why are you shooting yourselves in the foot, GM? This is such a great car.
I know. Yeah, that's a really interesting point if Tesla is going to try to flood the market. If I was a Canadian, what I would try to do is get what I can't get from other brands, which is the cheapest cars. So in the US, if they allowed some Chinese EVs to come in, it wouldn't be that I wanted a luxury car. It would be I would want the EV that I feel like I always should have been able to have, which is kind of like cheap, mid-range, nothing crazy, can just use it around town. It's just an extra little vehicle for me. I would love that. Not available in the US. Like the Fiat 500e is the best option, and it's expensive for what it is. It's kind of like going on that cutesy branding.
Yeah.
Yeah. In China, they have EVs, many of them that start with, one in the price, like in the teens and the 10,000 something. And so that's the newness.
I don't think we're going to get that low here, but I think because, there are other things to worry about. They need to homologate them. The US crash tests are still Canada lines up with the US on that. So
so they have to pass.
They still need to pass. So
you can't be driving around in an aluminum can.
I think that first year is going to be interesting because I think we're going to also see the Canadians probably align with Euro NCAP instead of US NCAP. I think that's going to happen. I mean, it's not called US NCAP. It's called whatever, I'm talking about the safety standards. Same with other things like lighting standards. It does make more sense that if Canada's taking the step to say, hey, you know what? If the US are going to play foul and not be a good neighbor anymore, we're going to do our own thing. It makes sense for them to line up with Europe, which already has, the Chinese cars are also homologated in Europe, right?
Right.
So actually, I think that's going to be the next shoe to drop. And to be clear, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I predicted this thing with Canada and the tariffs. Yeah. I've been saying for months now that the government should and probably will drop the 100% tariff. I didn't think there was going to be a cap on the number, and I didn't think there was going to be some sort of regulation on the pricing. But I think that makes perfect sense because here's the thing that you touched on, which I think is very important for people to understand. And I think those of you in the US right now and the rest of the world that live in big cities will understand this. There's no need for a car that has 400 miles of range when all you're doing is commuting 40 miles a day, especially if you can charge at home, which is a lot of people that live in suburbia near big cities in the US that have access to charging at home.
Me.
Right. Not me, because I'm in an apartment, but that's not the point, because I've lived with EVs for long enough that I just charge at public chargers. And because the range is 200 to 300 miles, I don't have to charge more than every 2 weeks or something for my normal little errands. Also work from home. I don't have to commute. So
also you live in a mild climate, extremely important.
Exactly. In both places, I live in a mild climate.
Cold places is not the case.
Yeah, 100%. And both places have got great charging infrastructure, etc.
Yeah.
So, I think that Canadians like smaller cars and they like more affordable cars. You see cars here that you don't see in the US. For example, we got the Mercedes B-Class years ago that never came to the US beyond being an EV in the US. There was that B-Class electric briefly. But there's other cars I can't think of the top of my head right now that we get here that are, only homologated for the Canadian market. It's kind of crazy.
It's cool in a way. Like it's kind of an aspect of culture that you travel somewhere. Oh, what cars do they have here? I always look at that, and people always, how big are they? What are the brands? How does the dash function? Yeah, we don't have tons of cars in the U.S. from other countries, like
No,
Renault in France. We don't really have
correct.
that, or Peugeot, or we
Yeah,
don't
or Citroën,
Dacia or Citroën. Yeah, we
Dacia. Oh,
don't.
Dacia. I love
Yeah,
Dacias.
yeah, we don't have that. But I will say that Europe, there's a lot of angst over which cars can come from where. Like I know that France, they were not happy about all the Chinese EVs flooding their industry as well. So they did a big tariff thing. So I don't know. I wonder how truly open Canada is, and I think that cap suggests they're not truly
Well,
open.
I think they're testing the waters, and I think that's fair. But I
Yes.
think that this next year is going to be critical. Let's see who comes in, what cars they
Hmm.
bring. If the Canadian government changes their homologation rules, and also, how fast can they set up a dealer network or a service network? Because this is all going to be very critical. Based on what they've done in Europe, I think they can move pretty fast. But this first year, I would say it's going to be a wait and see year. And I think the second year is going to be the defining year where, they have a chance to put things in place. So remember, the Chinese move very fast. And so I
Yes.
wouldn't expect it to take too long. And I think BYD is definitely a low hanging fruit here. Maybe
Hmm.
Neo and I think Zeekr is more on the higher end side. I mean, I'd love a Zeekr. I'd love to get like a 001 FR or whatever. That would be my dream car. Or a Xiaomi SU7. That would also be my dream car.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, that
Wow, look at
Xiaomi is a bit
you.
higher though, but like I definitely would get like a Pro or an Ultra, like a really fast one. Because I had a Model 3 Performance for many years and I loved it. And I still think Tesla makes fantastic cars. It's just that I don't need a car right now, but if I did, I don't think I'd want to put my money there, right? So
Yeah, I'm try something new.
a lot of people are in that boat. By the way, as an aside, a big other news item that fell today alongside the Bolt, only lasting 18 months, is that Tesla has decided to get rid of autopilot completely as a free thing in their cars, and you're only going to get radar cruise control. Sure, it'll keep you in the lane as a safety feature, but that's not remotely what autopilot does right now, where it actually does drive on the freeway. So that's very interesting because autopilot and FSD have always been two separate software stacks. And I think what they're trying to do here is say you have to subscribe to FSD. And as you know, FSD is
Uh,
now only subscription based. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's very typical, Elon. I would even less want a Tesla without autopilot. For me, it wasn't FSD that made my Tesla great because on the city, I want to drive myself, and I'm honestly better than FSD still. I'm a more assertive driver. I learned to drive in France, like, but point is, long distance, which I did a lot of travel and I have a lot of experience driving EVs long distance, I don't think I need FSD. I want autopilot. I want something that just does freeway. That's an aside, but you know what? The other thing I think that nobody seems to be talking about, and I want to give you maybe an opportunity to write about this in PC Mag because you have more influence than
okay.
I do in this little podcast, is nobody's talking about the Canadian car industry, or if they are, they're talking about it in the wrong context. Now, as I said earlier, we have a strong Canadian car industry that's highly aligned with the US. But with these tariffs messing things up, a lot of US manufacturers said, we're going to close plants and whatever. And I think that what Carney, our prime minister, our government should do is impose alongside those restrictions on Chinese cars that they put in with these drops of tariffs, um, a clause that forces them to build plants and hire the Canadian
Hmm.
or buy the plants from the American car makers and hire those Canadian workers and retrain them. We don't have a huge car industry, but it's significant enough that enough people are already losing their jobs and likely to lose their jobs if these cars are manufactured in China. I think we have a huge opportunity here as a country, Canada, to make it right for our auto industry. Like,
You mean get Chinese plants in
yes,
Canada?
let's get the Chinese
Yeah.
manufacturer to make the cars in Canada.
Okay,
They're going to be a little more
you walked
expensive.
into a trap because I thought what was interesting about this is a day or two after the Canadian news, Trump made a speech that he wanted to do that in the US, which was crazy to people.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that guy just does it.
So basically, you probably have, a Ford CEO, GM CEO. They're looking at the news that week and they're like, well, let me just take myself out right now. I mean, they're letting in Chinese EVs to Canada. Then Trump says, oh, we'll just let the Chinese manufacture their cars here. It'll make jobs. It'll be great. So.
Look, I think that, no, but this is important. I think for Canada, I'm not talking about the US here. I'm just talking purely about Canada. We have a small industry. It's dying already. It's been in trouble for years before all this happened. You know, the Americans are pulling out now even further with tariffs. It's getting more complicated to actually make the American cars in Canada because of these tariffs. And so it would make sense for these, you know, for the unions in Canada to support this, to say, listen, we will only be happy with this Chinese deal if you force the Chinese to build plants here and hire our workers and train them. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason the government couldn't say that. The Chinese would be all over it. It would still increase the price a little bit because the labor is more expensive and we have more regulations around environment and stuff. And I get that. But look, if I can buy a BYD Dolphin for 25 to 30,000 Canadian dollars, it's a really great deal. There's very little out there in that price point that exists, gas or electric right now. Like, it still would give them enough of a profit margin. I think it could be worked out. And then it would really cement the Chinese. Like, the Chinese can't just bring their cars from China to Canada. They have to invest in the country. They've done it with Mexico. It's inevitable. Maybe that's why they didn't put any caps on that. Maybe they're like, the car industry in Canada will come around and figure it out. And, you know, Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, who's complaining about this, and the Canadian auto workers unions that are complaining about this right now, will eventually come around. I think they will. They don't have a choice. Look, the reality is this. In the same way as, and this is not just America and Canada, this is the world, in the same way as auto manufacturers did not take Japan seriously, and then Europe with the luxury brands, or the other way around, Europe and then Japan, and then Korea eventually, right? Like, Kia and Hyundai and Genesis are killing it. Every time I get in one of their vehicles, if they're even like gas cars or hybrids, I'm impressed as hell. And it's like they're so good. You know, right now I have a Kia EV9 GT. It's a forbidden fruit. We only get it in Canada. You guys don't get it in the US. They were going to bring it to the US. And in November, they announced that the GT, which is a crazy sporty version with the fake gear shifting and everything, in a 3-row SUV. Like, wow, like, this is so cool. An electric one, of course. They said, no, we're not bringing it to the US because, you know, of the climate tariffs and EVs are, you know, uncertainty. Guess what? I couldn't believe this. When I drove it recently, I still have it this week, I was like, let's do some research on reviews. And I did my research and I'm like, oh my God, it's not in the States. It's a Canada only thing. And British, UK has it too. And it's, imagine this, an EV9 from Kia, 3-row family SUV, just turned up to 11 as a sports car. It actually literally has like all the modes and the fake shifting and the sounds and the,
you got moms going crazy. Moms taking their kids to soccer practice.
It's just so absurd. It's amazing. Okay. And so, yeah, I think the Koreans are killing it. And I think, you know, next is China. It's inevitable at this point. Europe is feeling the pain. And look, I'm not saying that this is not about China. This is about our industries in the West evolving because we're driven by disruption. And if right now we're just putting blinders on, sticking our heads in the sand, like, we've done this before. And it's like, why are we repeating the same cycle? It didn't work the last 2 or 3 times. Like, let's move. Let's go.
It's interesting. And I really love your international perspective. I don't get to always talk about all the regions of the world when it comes to the car business. And it's so important because they all operate globally.
Yeah.
But with this, I don't know. Do people move forward with deals? Does Canada move forward with deals like that right now? Or take a long-term view that Trump won't be in office always? Maybe the next administration will have a different policy. Because, I mean, I'm not a political strategist, but I do think that the Canada and the US are more structurally connected. So in a perfect world, we would not be acting how we are right now, and we would be deepening our relationship with Canada in manufacturing and continuing to build on a connection that is already very strong. If you stop investing in that connection, like Trump has, then you do really want to partner with the Chinese? I mean, it just, you know, you should think long term. I would hope world leaders are doing that as much as they can.
I think it's a valid point. And, you know, I'm not saying China is the end all be all. They have their flaws, they have their issues. I think that we should definitely audit the software in these Chinese cars coming to Canada and make sure that they're good and safe. But I use Chinese phones all the time, including Chinese market. So, like, not just Chinese international phones that have been vetted in their software. And, you know, honestly, I'm not too concerned about it. I think that my take is this. The US has shown, even before Trump number one, like before the first time he came to power, that there is a lot of protectionism and a lot of lobbying going on around the car and the oil industry, you know, and that's what's been like slowing us down. It's like when Canada hitches its cars to the US train, they get shafted. And if you listen to, Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos this week, you should, if all of you should listen to it. It really sets the stage for the future. Countries like Canada and France and like countries that have power but not at the same power as China, Russia, and the US need to band together, and they need to, get more independent, even though they might be geographically connected like the Canada is. Because, look, first of all, I think this fascist regime in the US is going to stick around for quite a while. I'm not sure our elections are really going to matter going forward. I'm a US citizen right now. I will vote in the US as well. That's my take. But secondly, even if there's a radical change, and oh God, I really hope it does happen, I don't see these forces of capitalism, these oil industries and auto industries wanting the Chinese to come in. So this disruption kind of needs to happen. Because it's better for the customer. I'm looking at the customer's best interest here. I think that we need to have access to this technology. I think that in order for Americans to stay relevant on the world stage, we need to continue to innovate. And to innovate right now is to look at China. They're yes, they do bad things, like they steal technology. We know all this, but they're still innovating faster than we are. And
they're innovating faster. There's an aura around China like they have everything right in these kinds of conversations, but I'm seeing a lot of information that their economy is going down. They're also having severe birth rate issues. Especially with EVs, they subsidize them in the government. They pushed so hard for so many decades to build this up. They saturated it, and now the prices are bottom of the barrel. So do you really want to invite a race to the bottom into your country? I mean, people are going to get from point A to point B. Do they really need a Chinese EV for 50 cents?
No.
So you have to look out for the people. And I think a lot of the emotion in the US around cars, which is totally absurd, I will say, there's a lot of emotion. People don't want change. It's like a whole American identity thing, the car, the pickup, the open road, blah, blah, blah. But car manufacturing plants bring a ton of jobs. So there's an emotional component that people are going into communities. If you drive through certain places in the US, you will immediately be awash with depression with what you see. There are just buildings built 100 years ago that are decaying. Houses are decaying. All the jobs left. They all went to China. There's very high rates of people on disabilities, very high rates of opioid use. This is the US people don't talk about. And this is the emotion that people bring to those nativist conversations that just does not get through. It's sadness over seeing what's happened because the manufacturing has left. So I don't think Trump is solving it. But there's just a lot of factors I think are important to bring up. There's the consumer aspect, there's the international aspect, then there's the domestic stuff that I'm talking about. And we're certainly not balancing it correctly right now. But I don't know what the next administration is going to do with all this.
I mean, I think the thing that we should do is encourage the Chinese to build their plants in North America and hire American workers and retrain them. These are the things we're not doing. We're not forcing them to retrain. Like, that's the thing. Like, think about the billions, the trillions of dollars spent on our military. Imagine us taking care of our people with free healthcare. Get these people onto jobs and train them for it.
The only thing we need from the Chinese is cheap batteries. So an EV, everything about EVs is related to the battery.
Yes.
The price, the performance, that's the whole thing. China has gone around the world, set up shop in Africa, in every single corner, this, that, and the other, gotten all the minerals, and then taken them all home and set up insanely large manufacturing plants. So they're now manufacturing batteries at scale. Like, theoretically, every car company in the US could set up manufacturing plant, employ people, and train them. What we really need from China is cheap batteries. We know how to train people. We know how to make a product. We know how to manufacture. We do not know how to make cheap batteries.
I have some reservations about us knowing how to make a product. Yes, we do know how to make a product, but we know how to make a product the old way. We do not know how to make a product the new way. The new way is very critical because the new way is way more efficient and price sensitive, like in terms of bringing the cost of the cars down. Jim Farley has talked about this a lot. And that's why their little pickup truck effort, I hope it doesn't get canceled, because I think it's very important in the same way as the Bolt is very important, because they are finally taking some of these cues from the Chinese way. This is, when I say the Chinese should come, I'm just saying it's because I don't trust that the Americans can really pull it off. They're so invested in gas. They're so invested in suppliers and all these complexities that don't work in this vertically integrated Apple-like, Tesla-like technology stack that the Chinese have. Look at Xiaomi, right?
Like, so it's more engineering though than
it's what I'm saying.
Like, software.
It doesn't matter to me who makes the cars where. What matters to me is that I don't believe and trust that the American manufacturing base right now can adapt to the new way. It took them forever to adapt to the Toyota way of doing that, going from the Ford way of doing things. Remember that? And even now, they're still not able to produce as high quality cars than they produce in Japan. Like, I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah.
And look, if we can get close, good enough. But I'm just saying, this is kind of why I think, the Japanese came in and built their plants. And then they taught Ford and GM and Stellantis, oh, poor Stellantis. They taught Stellantis, maybe not, how to build cars properly. And look, GM, Ford, and built cars like Toyota did 20 years ago, right? Like,
it's just very ironic because I don't know exactly what year, decade we started really accelerating the whole manufacturing in China and businesses moved over there, but they were manufacturing and then just getting, like files with US IP. Okay, just build this thing. We don't trust you to come up with how to make a product, just manufacture this IP. Yeah. Now it's like the US has lost that skill so much. It's like, okay, just put bodies in the building. We'll tell you what to do. Yeah. It's the exact opposite of what it used to be.
Like, I feel what you're saying about, I've been to these parts of the US, right? I know I've seen it myself.
On your road trips,
I do. And I don't like it. But at the same time, I'm like, look, we have to move forward. Like, we're going to be left behind. The reality is that right now, with this new regime, we're losing all of our brain talent to China. Or other parts, Europe is trying to steal our scientists because, they're getting the shaft from the administration right now with visa limitations and with, the universities being forced to repeat the regime's propaganda or else they don't get funded and all that stuff. And we know the regime's propaganda includes non-science. So, like, there's way more problems right now to worry about than what the car industry is going to be doing in 5 years, to be frank.
Yes.
But preparing for the long-term future, maybe 20 years from now when fascism is gone in the US, we really do need to have Canada be a strong neighbor in the same way as I think we need Mexico to be a strong neighbor.
I think I brought up the battery price because one issue is demand is pretty static for cars, at least in the US.
Yeah.
But if the price was lower, there would be more demand and more reason to build more manufacturing plants, right?
You're right.
That's the difference with that the Chinese are going to bring is the lower prices and the increased demand. Because if Ford could manufacture cheap EVs, there would be more needed to be manufactured and they could set up more factories. So that's why I brought up the battery thing is that they just bring lower prices is what they bring. The problem is we can't achieve that without them because they control the whole industry.
But I agree with you. Like, I'm not saying you're wrong at all. I feel like this is a very good point you're making. And we don't necessarily need the Chinese car manufacturers, but you definitely need their expertise in batteries.
We just need their prices.
Their pricing in batteries, yeah. Well, let's see what Donut brings to the table, right?
I don't know.
I know. We covered it last week. I don't really want to go into depth with that right now because we'll get derailed into another entire podcast.
Oh, your listeners are really informed. If you can just say donut
I try,
like that.
Like it's a balance of like getting them the phone news they need. Folks, it's coming, and getting them kind of on board with a bigger picture because it's all integrated. The way I look at the car industry, the EV, specifically the EV industry, because it is the car industry of the future, is I look at it as the smartphone industry was 15 years ago. All the growing pains all around the software and the user experience and the overly baroque user interface, all that stuff happened 15 years ago in the phone industry. The verticalization of the industry. We have so much to learn in the car world in the EV world from the phone world 15 years ago. And I think that's why my audience is enjoying this stuff because they can kind of relate. They were there when I was podcasting with them 15 years ago and when we were going, what are you doing, HTC? Sense sucks or Sense is great. Why doesn't everybody adopt it? You know what I'm saying?
You're smart. You have a lot of perspective. And I mean, for me, it's not as much about the cars. I'm not obsessed with cars, but it's almost this intellectual experiment of like, what do the cars represent? And we're talking about politics, we're talking about technology, we're talking about, it's kind of like I don't know. That's why cars are fun to me. Maybe I'm a gigantic nerd.
You're a
but
gigantic nerd. It's okay.
I am a
We both
gigantic
are.
nerd, but I like they're so fraught. I don't know why they're so wrapped up in so many things, but they are. And it sounds like phones are that too for a lot of people.
So let's quickly talk about the Volvo EX60 and shift gears and talk actually about a product that, well, is coming from China, but will be manufactured probably in the US or in Belgium or something, or Korea. And you wrote the news on that?
I wrote that up along with, of course, a lot of other people. I think it's probably dead in the water, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For the US, probably, yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
We need lower prices. I love the Volvo EVs. I think they're really great.
They're great. The EX30 is my fave, honestly.
Yeah, they're just, you get in them, you feel good. I love the aesthetic. Quiet, the sound is good. It feels just clean and there's air purifiers. I mean, it's like heaven. But yeah, I don't know if just releasing another kind of like mid-size SUV is going to get anyone's attention.
There is some interesting things here from a technical perspective. 400-mile range. It's based on a new platform, the SPA3 platform from Geely Geely. I never know what to say about that.
Me neither.
Nobody seems to be able to agree, actually. But anyway, the point is, I think that's one of the things that stands out. As you said, my love and your love, our love of the Volvo EVs in general have been pretty great. Hopefully their software issues are resolved soon. They have a lot of software issues. I can live with it because I've lived through the being a beta tester for Tesla thing for years, for 12 years or something. Oh, wow. So I don't mind, I don't mind the early adopter thing. But I think the average person just wants to get in a car and to be reliable. And right now, the EX30, EX90 are, they have some issues. So I'm excited about the EX60. I think you're right. It doesn't hit the price point and all that. The other tech we want to talk about, and this is going to be a nice pivot towards AI, is Gemini in this car. So I have to say, look, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a long-time Google user and I have everything in my Google now. But I have never been able to kind of like latch on to ChatGPT. I've never been able to latch on to Amazon Alexa Plus or to, all the others out there, Anthropic and others. I am all in on Gemini, and it just really works for me because it has access to all my. I'm on that beta program where it has access to everything, and oh my god, it's so good.
Wow, is it making you dinner every night? It's giving you a foot massage?
No, it's not. But it's like, I'll give you an example. I had to write a letter to my building management here in Vancouver, and it's the kind of chore that I really hate. And so we have a log of things that we've written down, and it's a spreadsheet. And so I was like, hey, can you take this spreadsheet and this previous letter that I wrote manually, and can you like condense it into some sort of really awesome like letter of complaint? And man, it did so much better than I would have in so little time. There's no way I was going to waste my time agonizing over this BS, and that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And then, the fact that I can ask my watch or in the car, even on Android Auto, and say, ask something that's not related to the drive or not related to like my life. Like, what's the number of atoms in a molecule of whatever, like it will tell me that. And it's like, you can't ask a Tesla that. Well, maybe you can now that it has Grok, but you can't really ask most cars that have voice assistants these kind of things. And it seems logical to me that you would be able to do these things and sometimes they hallucinate, but you can fact check. But the point is, most of these things are pretty factual, and you'll get a
The point is, did you sound smart in the moment?
Yeah.
Just kidding. Know. That's not the point.
I just like Gemini, and I'm really happy that Volvo is integrating Gemini AI deeply and that they have this really strong connection with Google, because we know that at least, look, and this is the other thing I want to just point out to my audience in case you haven't realized, we always talk about China and the privacy and security and whether the CPP will access your data. Look, it's already happening with TikTok. I know now it's no longer China, but it's too late. And then, come on, Facebook, Google, even Apple, they have so much information about you.
It's a pick your poison situation.
Exactly. So I've picked my poison. Yeah. It is Google, and I'm happy there. And so when I see Volvo working closely with Google for the user experience and having Gemini AI, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I when I saw that news, I didn't know how people would react to it, just because I think the in-car voice assistants kind of dug themselves in a grave just by being so terrible for so long.
They're so bad.
And so I struggle. It doesn't get me going when I see that news. I think it's probably the kind of thing you just have to experience firsthand. They need to prove themselves. And it's funny because these car companies act like they don't. They're just like, and we put another voice assistant, and everyone's like, tomato, tomato, like, stop doing that. You know, you act like that's an exciting headline, but
It's not.
You've made me want to crash into a wall with this car for your voice assistant for the past 10 years. So they need to prove themselves. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they act like just because they put Gemini in a press release, like they already proved themselves. But it's good to hear from you that you actually like it. So
I feel that it's nice. I mean, look,
it's an improvement.
I try in the Volvo, but I know that in my watch, having gained Gemini on my Pixel watch and my Galaxy watch and my OnePlus watch that are all Android Wear, has really been great because I can now ask it questions that are relevant. Like the occasional times my phone's not in my pocket, I can just push a button and say like, hey, can you tell me about this? Can you summarize this news item? And it 99% of the time gets it right, and also knows my personal stuff. So I can say like, hey, what's that last email I sent to so-so? You know, and then can you summarize it? And like, it's really cool. And that's the kind of stuff I'm hoping that this Gemini integration in the car will bring to the car, where I can start talking to my car because my hands are not free. You know, like when I'm in the kitchen and I use my watch or my Google speaker or whatever. Right.
Do you find that it keeps the context? Because I found that ChatGPT remembers my past chats much better than Gemini, which is why I keep using ChatGPT. And in this situation, if Gemini is on your watch and your car and your computer, like that better be linked. Like I can't be repeating. You know?
I think right now there are some bugs there. And, you know, in the same way as in the early days when you were in a room with your phone, your watch, and your Google speaker, it didn't know which one should answer and eventually got really good at it.
Yeah.
I think that they're working on that.
I hope so, because it should be the same account. Like, you know, you can log into your chatbot account of pick your brand. You see all your past chats. And then with Gemini, I'm asking it a question of something that I see the past chat. We talked about that, and it just has no idea. And so I've had that. That's a minor thing, but it's just been something that's been off-putting to me because I'm like, oh, why am I repeating myself? I don't have to do that.
I agree. I agree that ChatGPT does a better job of that. And I do agree that related to that, you know, we talked last week about the Apple-Google partnership. You know, of the...
Yeah, how are they going to manage that?
Well, I think you're not going to get your Gemini history at all. This is them taking the Gemini LLMs and putting them, some of them in the Apple private cloud and some of them that can't run on your device. And those that can run on your device on device. And you're going to create your whole new history and it'll be series history. Like, I think that's what bothers me the most. And I'm hoping that this partnership they've created has a switch in it where you can say like, access all my Gemini stuff. Because I don't care if I'm saying, you know, the keyword with Siri.
Yeah.
I just, to me, that's the biggest problem I had when I saw the BMW demo with Alexa Plus at CS. It's great. You know, it needs a bit of work, but it's great. But look, it doesn't have my context. It's not where I live. I live in Gemini. Okay, like I want Gemini. Give me Gemini. I don't care about Alexa. Okay.
Yeah, Alexa's pretty bad. She's a piece of work, huh?
Oh my God. All right. So quickly before we jump into the news, I want to kind of pick your brain about how you feel about this weird new NVIDIA wording of physical AI, which to me just means freaking robotics. Okay. Am I right? Is there more to it than that? Or am I doing the hallucinating right now?
No, you're not. It was really funny to me that was the big topic at CES because it's also the least likely to happen. It's the most abstract. It's like a giant blurry cloud of like, what are we even talking about? You're just talking about smarter robots that you take ChatGPT level performance, put it in a robot, and now it can handle more tasks, more variations. It doesn't need to be specifically programmed. It's just that's how I interpret it. It's just a better performing physical object. And it might not be a robot. It might be, I don't know, I'm looking at computer monitors right now. It could be any object that just, you know, this is this desk. Maybe I'm talking to a desk in
maybe it's a smart
years.
desk and you're telling it to raise.
Yeah, maybe it's a desk that just knows my posture's terrible and it just...
We saw a chair that did that at CES at the Pepcom.
There you go. Yeah, it's just like this magical world. It's kind of like Beauty and the Beast when they walk in and there's Lumiere and there's the teacup and there's the, you know, the footrest that's a little dog. It's like all these magical woodland creatures come to life, but they're just AI robots. That's basically what Jensen Huang wants.
Yeah, well, I get that, but I'm just saying, like, why coin this new word? We've had robotics using machine learning for years, right? It's like, What are you talking about, guys? Like,
he wants the money. He was because
I know.
agentic AI didn't work as a buzzword.
Yeah, it was boring. Agentic AI.
It was too boring. It went from AI, meaning chatbots, and they were like, okay, what's next? What's next? Agentic AI didn't work. And they were like, shoot, physical. How about that? And that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. We bored you to death with cars and AI for 40 minutes. So now let's talk quickly about some phone news. So, hey, look, this is actually kind of interesting. Have you followed the OnePlus drama?
No, I need to be educated on it.
Let me just quickly fill in the audience as well. So, Android Headlines wrote an article that was heavily AI written, clearly, claiming that OnePlus was exiting the market, basically. Now, it's interesting because they wrote in between Christmas and New Year's, Realme and Oppo announced that essentially Oppo was going to reabsorb Realme into its realm. Like, you have to understand. So in the old days, BBK Group, there was Oppo, Realme, OnePlus, and Vivo. Under Vivo, there was IQ. And then BBK Group dissolved and they rearranged things. And then now Oppo kind of absorbed OnePlus to a great extent. And then basically Realme is being slowly absorbed by Oppo. So now you have kind of Oppo and Vivo and IQ under Vivo. And then you got OnePlus and Realme under Oppo. And so after that announcement during the holidays, Android Headlines wrote an article how it's the end of Realme. That's the beginning of the end. It's bad news, that kind of stuff. And well, I don't know about that because I think that Realme still has, I think that there's definitely a drive here for Oppo to be the Uber brand, right? Like for Oppo to be the flagship brand. That's where the foldables are going to be. That's where the best camera phones are going to be. The other ones are going to always get a little bit inferior thing, and that's fine. But to say that Realme is going to go die, so nobody really paid attention because it was Realme, right? I guess like it's Realme, it's not a very North American centric thing. And then they kind of redid the same AI-based article about OnePlus based on some unverifiable claims, really. And oh my God, it was a complete mess out there.
Did it get picked up by
It got picked up by everyone. Then OnePlus ended up having to deny it. But they didn't really deny it. They just said we're going to continue supporting our customers, which is not saying we're going to continue making phones. Like it's a mess. And, I encourage you, I'll link to not the original story because it's terrible, but I'll link to kind of an analysis that kind of walks you through the whole story and what happened and how it happened, because we don't want OnePlus to go away. And I'm not okay for OnePlus to be kind of under Oppo and not getting the best stuff. And that's also why they're not getting the folding phone anymore, right? I do think that they still bring a whole bunch of value and good stuff to the table, especially in North America and in Western markets. So, look, the reality is that the smartphone business is cutthroat. It's very possible that Realme and OnePlus could die off at some point, but I don't think we're there yet. And I think that writing this article just really messed things up for a lot of people in a bad way. Both the readers of Android Headlines, the general consumer audience, the business people involved, the people at OnePlus, obviously, in various countries and markets, for Oppo itself. And that was written with AI is even worse. And that it turns out the owner of the site put the byline of one of the journalists on there that basically throwing them under the bus. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Everyone loses. That's terrible. Except for the company, I guess, that got clicks on that because everyone was
but now they're very scrutinized, right? Like people are going, should I buy OnePlus? Is it, it's going to get supported, but do I want to put my eggs in that basket? Should I just buy a Samsung and get it over with?
Yeah, because an average person isn't in all these weeds about what happened with the controversy
before it's too late. I don't know.
They just Google it and they see that and they're like, oh, this brand's on the way out. Why would I buy a product from them?
Or maybe buy a Pixel. But that, again, if you're a OnePlus customer, you're going to want the best performance. And so Samsung's much more likely to deliver that, even though the software experience is better on Pixel. So, it was, and then there's Moto, of course. And so it's like, I'm just like, we need a bit more choice than Apple and Google and maybe, Samsung here. We need OnePlus and we need Moto and we lost LG, we lost HTC. Let's not go too far. I'm very fond of Realme. I like their stuff.
Right.
Anyway, so that was a drama, and you should check it out for yourselves. It's quite something.
Well, what was the? Are you avoiding saying the source so you don't give them more traffic, or?
Well, it's Android Headlines. You can go there and read the story.
It's called Android Headlines?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the blog that posted it. Yeah. And I don't want to name the author because, first of all, he was thrown under the bus and he doesn't deserve it. And second of all, it's now not under his name anymore, but under the founder's name. So there was some kind of weird stuff there. They also
drama.
Yeah, they also changed the headline. It's anyway.
Yeah. I agree with that. That's the right decision to not do that.
I just, I've had that author on my podcast. I feel like he doesn't deserve this kind of attention, even though he might have. I don't know exactly whether he was thrown on the bus or there was a bad decision made or what. Look, people make mistakes. I just want the audience to be aware that they really should catch up on this OnePlus drama. It is disappointing. Juicy, yes. Disappointing, yes too.
Yes. Well, I hope that, the best case scenario in this is just that all press is good press and everyone's fine.
I mean, the CEO of OnePlus came out on X, Twitter, and said, this is not happening. We're basically continuing to run our business, but they didn't confirm or deny whether they're making more devices. So that's the challenge here, right? Like we're like,
that's a red flag. I will say from my reporting thus far, that's a red flag, and there's more to come.
I felt that they could have had a bit more of a clear answer, and that's what concerns me right now.
Waving that red flag.
We'll see what happens. All right. So couple of Honor news that I think are pretty interesting. The Magic V6 and robot phones will be coming to MWC. Not surprised about Magic V6. That's their next generation folding phone, book-style folding phone. They've been a leader in that field. They have one of the thinnest ones with the V5 currently on the market. It's a really great phone. So V6, MWC, if you like folding phones, stay tuned. The robot phone, though, I don't know if you got to see it at CES or the reports of it at CES. So this was teased as a concept at IFA. And what it is the gimbals that you see on drones that are pretty compact gimbals that stabilize the camera. And you've seen that Osmo stick thing that people use. Imagine that built into your phone, and it unfolds out of your phone. So when it's stowed away, it's your main camera on your phone stowed away. So you can use your phone normally. It's got just a big, thick camera bump because of it. But then you push a button and the thing goes like a little baby robot.
It's a very Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, but it's so China and it's so awesome and it's so Honor. And instead of making it a concept like at IFA, they announced that they were going to make it a real phone. And now they've announced, and they showed it at CES, of course. And now they're announcing that they're going to actually make it a product. And we have a launch announcement, like basically MWC.
Cool.
So
I don't know
excited.
why more companies don't do that. I mean, a gigantic cell phone company has, as we've talked about, incredible manufacturing capacity, huge margins. They get money to blow. I mean, they have so much money. If you think of something like Apple, yet their experimentation on stuff like that is so low. Couldn't they just do limited runs, like keep it fresh? Like, no, they are so corporate. They just keep it buttoned up, everything perfect. I don't know. Yeah. They could just see more funky stuff like that.
I think this is one of the areas where China is willing to try things.
Right.
And I think because they have the capacity to make a run of 10,000. It's not a big deal in their budget.
Make a run of 200. They could do whatever they want. They have, I know it's not that easy to reconfigure manufacturing line, but surely they could figure it out.
Well, this is their strength right now, that they can reconfigure these manufacturing lines.
I mean, they should do, it's like they have no love of the game, like funky tech products. Like they just don't want to try anything. They just want to make money.
Again, 15 years ago when the whole Kickstarter revolution happened, when I was a part of it, it was like so much fun out there.
Yeah,
all these cool devices like Pebble and stuff. Anyway, another piece of Honor news is the Magic8 Pro Air was announced this week. We knew this was coming, but this is basically an iPhone Air competitor. It is slightly thicker, about 0.5 millimeter thicker, which is not huge, so you probably won't feel very different in the hand. But here's the good news. 3 cameras, boom. And a 5,500 milliamp hour silicon carbon battery, of course. So the pains that you have if you use an iPhone Air, it's a great phone, but it has 2 big pains. And then one of them is battery life, and the other one is cameras, only a single camera. So Honor, again, China is going, look, we can do close to better because it's not quite as thin, but solve these pain points. And I don't understand, 3 cameras is a bit much, but I really don't understand why At least Samsung came out with 2 cameras on the back of the S25 Edge, and I just don't understand why neither of them did silicon carbon batteries. And I think we've seen a whole bunch of Air or thin phones from the Chinese manufacturers. This is not the first one that copycat that visor design of the Pixel, which is now, accredited to Apple for the iPhone Air. Yeah, I think this is good. Like if you're in China, because this is China only right now, like you get competition. And again, this is back to this innovation thing,
It is. It is. And it's back to US thinking that it's still good, but China's just kind of doing it a little bit better, but also a little bit worse. I don't know. It's like in this case is interesting because it's a competitor that is like, yeah, we're going to just be a little bit worse, but we think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're trying to measure the compromises here, and that's fair. I mean, look,
I'm surprised they even wanted to compete with the iPhone Air. I mean, I didn't realize people were competing with that product. It was cool. Actually, that was experimentation from Apple, but then it was kind of like no one really wanted it.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be a market success, but it's definitely a stepping stone towards a folding phone, which could be successful if they do it right. And again, remember, Apple always comes late to the game. In this case, when they make a folding phone, it's going to be 7 years late, but they are always bringing in something cool that makes it like, aha, I get it now, kind of thing.
Right.
Speaking of Air, we have a RedMagic 11 Air as well. So this is, again, nothing too new here. There was a RedMagic 10 Air. RedMagic is the gaming brand from Nubia ZTE, and they make great gaming phones. I got the 11 Pro here. My review is going to be going up very shortly. Finally, it's been written forever. But on Hot Hardware, keep an eye out. But the Air is just only a bit thinner, so 7 point something instead of 8 point something. And it's essentially the same specs. You lose a bit of battery from 75 to 7,000, which is still massive. You do lose the liquid cooling, but you keep the fan. It has an active fan. So if you're a gamer and you want a slightly thinner, lighter version of one of the best gaming phones out there, RedMagic's got you covered, and it's coming to the US. So not
Very
yet.
cool.
This is China only for now, but it's very typical that RedMagic, like 2 weeks later, says, hey, Western markets, here's your version of that phone. So,
wow, you really know your stuff. These stats are just coming out.
Well, I read the stuff and I keep on top of it best I can. And then also I think I've been reviewing RedMagic phones since the original, which was like, we're on 11, like a decade ago now. So,
but you're surfing all these brands, all the specs on everything.
There are so many phones. I'm not quite like, if you ask me about IQ, for example, the Vivo sub brand, I would stumble.
You're being exceptionally hard on yourself.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your kind words. Okay, so we have a couple of more things here to talk about. And one of them is kind of sad. And that's the fact that Asus, one of my favorite brands, and I'm not just saying that because Asus has been a sponsor of the podcast. They make great products. Some of my favorite laptops are from Asus. Are they my favorite phones? Probably not, but they do make a really great gaming phone, the Asus ROG phone. And that's no longer going to happen. They are pulling out of the smartphone businesses to focus on AI and on laptops and the other things they do, gaming. And I kind of get it because, look, they're a Taiwanese brand fighting with the Chinese, Nubia, ZTE, RedMagic in this case. Xiaomi has even dropped out of making gaming phones. They did for a while the Black Shark series. So it's a tough business to be in. And, they also made regular flagships, and those were like totally nobody knew about them. For a while they made a really compact flagship Android phone that they sold in North America. And people loved it because it was the smallest Android phone you could buy that packed a serious punch, like the best Snapdragon chip and stuff. But like the iPhone mini, nobody bought it, right? So,
yep.
Yeah.
So you think it's the right decision?
Well, I think it's the right decision, but also I'm not sad because, in the same way as LG still makes washers and dryers and LG Gram laptops and TVs, they're not going to go away. But Asus is one of those brands that I feel we're going to miss out on not having their phones. In the same way as LG, I mourn LG's phones and HTC's phones dearly. So,
well,
RIP Asus and Asus RG phones. Now, the other thing, the flip side of that, and good news, is that Next Phone, this company known as Next Dock, they make laptop-like docks for your phone. So It's basically a laptop without the guts. So, a screen and a keyboard and speakers and ports, and you plug your phone into it. And if you have DeX, it becomes DeX, like on a Samsung phone. If you have a Pixel, it becomes the Android desktop environment. And if you plug in whatever, that's the idea. So Nextdock made these docks. And then they just made a phone. And this phone is very special because it can run 3 different OSs. It can run Android, of course, 16, and it can run Windows 11. And then those are the dual boot options. And then within Android, it can run Linux as a virtual machine. Boom, right there. So if you can and then of course, the whole idea is that you plug into one of their Nextdocks and you have a complete computer system on the go. And I think this is very cool because it kind of revives the whole Windows phone in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the other thing to keep in mind here is that this is running a Qualcomm chip that's kind of a mid-range chip, but it's not one of the Snapdragons we're familiar with. It's one of those IoT chips that's designed to be supported for like a decade or more. So that's actually really interesting because the Fair phones in the past, the ones that are environmentally friendly, repairable phones.
Yes, I remember
They
those.
have used that chip before because they wanted to guarantee that software updates could last beyond the 7-year limit on these phones.
That would be good.
Right? The question is, though, do you think your phone will last, long enough for that to be worthwhile? And also, it's already a mid-range chip today. So can it keep up with the AI demand and all the other things that are going to be happening? But at the same time, I'm looking at this as this is a low-volume toy kind of thing where people might want to experiment and maybe they want to carry this in their bag at all times and then have Windows 11 in their bag at all times. They don't have to carry another laptop with them. Then they can maybe plug it into another device like a TV screen in a hotel room, plug a keyboard and mouse and have Windows 11. I don't know. It's kind of cool.
It is cool. Yeah. We're pro-experimentation here.
Yeah, we are. What are your thoughts in general on these kind of boutique? We saw some stuff at CS with Michael Fisher and Clicks doing the communicator and stuff. Like, I'm a really gung-ho. I think we've finally reached a point in smartphones that we can make runs of 10,000s of things, especially with Shenzhen assisting us. And I want to see more of these super niche, like, even if they're only supported for a brief time, because ultimately, look, for the nerdy tech savvy early adopters that my audience and I are, we'll buy toys that are cool and keep them 2-3 years and then maybe put them in a drawer. I know it's not the most environmentally friendly thing, but at the same time, I feel that the reality is so much gets wasted all the time every year. If Apple and Samsung can recycle their phones well, which they do, I think that we're okay if we make a run of 10,000 little niche,
I think
artisanal phones is what I'm waiting for. Like
Small
somebody
batch.
to actually use. Yeah.
Farmers market phones.
This is the name of the podcast. Farmer markets phones.
Farmers market phones.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to have fun in life, just in general. And if you're into phones, it's nice to have a healthy market for you to have fun and experiment and try new things and opine about it on podcasts. So, I mean, it's sometimes can be a bit dry, around here in the tech reporting world. We got like 5 companies to talk about.
I know
that, it's become so corporatized. It's just the new finance. It's not what we're talking about here with this experimentation. So I think there's such a dearth of that. I mean, there's almost none of it. So it's hard to not encourage it.
Yeah. So I will be reaching out to Next Phone to see if I can get a review and keep you posted, folks. Listen, Emily, we should run. Do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, where you write, and also where your social media lives?
Yes. So you can find me on PC Mag. You can find me on all the social networks, but the 2 I post the most on are Blue Sky and TikTok. Very different audiences, platforms, but for me, it's more Blue Sky is kind of text, and then on TikTok, you'll just get to see me making a fool of myself on videos. So that's fun. And then I also have a podcast of my own that's sort of new since I was last on here, but it's been going for about 6 months. It's with Mike Elgin, who you probably know.
Yes, I know Mike. Cool.
Yeah, so Mike and I have a podcast. It's called Super Intelligent Podcast, where we just like this, just shoot back and forth on topics, but we do kind of pick one main topic of the week and we try to dive into that. So yeah, Super Intelligent. You can find that on, I think Substack is what we officially publish it on, but it goes to Spotify, Apple, all that. But
all the platforms.
If you follow me, I will make sure you are informed on where you can come and see me make a fool of myself. So
fantastic.
That's
and
it.
Folks, you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character. Drop the vowels and you get my handle pretty much everywhere. And if you want to chat with me and Emily about this podcast, please find us on social. I'm primarily on Blue Sky and on Instagram and Threads, maybe. Of course, I'm also on TikTok, but my handle's different. It's TNKGRL69, which is my year of birth. Don't make fun. I thought it was kind of a bit of a joke, but now people are making fun. I should have thought of that. Anyway.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing. TikTok, I'm out there. Find me. And then, of course, the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com on all the major platforms. So please subscribe, tell your friends. And if your app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. There's also a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast, where I sometimes post reviews, hands-ons, and other snippets from the podcast. Most recently, I did a hands-on with the trifold from Samsung at CES. That was pretty cool. So if you want to see the future of folding phones, check that out. You know how YouTube works? Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, comment, all that good stuff. And then finally, I haven't mentioned it on this week's podcast throughout the podcast because we haven't shown you too much this week, but I have a Patreon where the video version of this podcast lives. So patreon.com/TNKGRL, like my handle, you get the podcast every week, a day in advance for $5 a month on video. And so, sometimes I leave extra content if we go overtime. Sometimes we show off devices and you can see close-ups and stuff. And then you can see like bloopers when FedEx shows up in the middle of a podcast. Sometimes I'll leave that in there. We do a sudden unboxing or something. So you might not get it this week, but every now and then you get a little extra. And of course, you get it in advance every week for $5 a month. So please consider supporting me with Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Emily, thanks so much for making time and coming on the show this week. I appreciate you being here.
This was a lot of fun. Good conversation. You're very smart. Your readers or your listeners seem very smart as well. So this is just a cool podcast. So thank you for having me.
We'll have you on again, obviously. And folks, we'll have another podcast next week. So stay tuned for that. Cheers, everybody.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.